So hi, welcome to this podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with.
Mikey from TheCityIsOurs.
I have some questions to say about the upcoming album, Will You Still Love Me? So congrats on that, by the way. How do you guys feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Oh, well, it's been an experience because like this year's been quite quiet for us, I guess. We've been sat on these songs for quite a long time. So it's nice to finally kind of be putting some new music out there. And something that's quite different to anything that we've really done before as well. So it's been exciting to kind of rediscover ourselves, I guess, and share that with the world. And the response we've received has been amazing. So yeah, really stoked to put the whole thing out there at the beginning of 2025 for sure.
Hell yeah.
Damn right.
The album fucking rocks.
Incredible.
Oh, thank you so much,
Of
man.
course.
I really appreciate that, you guys.
Of course.
Of course.
I know you mentioned like you guys have been working on this for a while, sitting on it for a minute. Can we get like a timeline of like when you guys kind of started writing the record and when you finished it up and had like masters in hand?
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, some of these songs probably date back as far as kind of like COVID,
Mhm.
I guess. Like In the Dark, for example, which is one of the singles we released earlier this year. That song must have been rewritten like 5 or 6 times, like no joke. Like
Damn.
we were just really refining what we wanted, what we were aiming for, if that makes sense. That we had a vision of what we wanted the final thing to be,
Mhm.
but discovering the journey, I think, was kind of cool, and it was different to kind of the process we've done before. Um, so yeah, I mean, some of it dates back as far as then. I think it really sort of ramped up throughout kind of 2023. We tracked the record in August 2023, so like it's been a while. We got the masters back probably in September, dropped a single in the December, and then kind of did nothing for like a few months, you know. So it was a bit of a strange process. While we sort of figured out what we wanted to do and sort of worked out some personal stuff and things like that.
Mhm.
And then yeah, from March onwards, that's when it really started to sort of ramp up towards the album release. So yeah, it's difficult to say exactly, but most of 2023 through to now would sort of be the main things. And then, like I say, just a few rewrites of stuff that we've had in our back pockets for a while now.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Well, at least, age of singles, you've been getting it out there slowly, but you've been sitting on the full body for a hot minute.
hmm
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
That's good. And is there any
Absolutely.
meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Um, so basically, the record is kind of it's all really about kind of self-discovery and sort of our singer. Like we basically wrote two really sad albums
Mhm.
before this. One of them was basically just about kind of everybody dying.
Mm.
And then another one was kind of about a sort of relationship breakdown and all that kind of, stuff. And we wanted to try and find something a bit more positive, I guess. So it's actually to do with kind of sort of sexual identification and the process of coming out, I suppose, as like a through the lens of one of our members in the band. And kind of that experience of sort of how it feels to process those emotions of I mean, you can sort of the record is kind of a journey and starts the first song is shame. And I guess that was kind of the sort of initial feeling, and then working your way
Mm.
through from shame to kind of accepting yourself, and then from there kind of passing it on into like the wider world, and that kind
hmm
of having that safety in your own kind of bubble, I guess, but then going out into the wider world and what that's then like, and sharing those kind of thoughts and feelings with friends and family members and the wider world,
mm
basically. So yeah, and then will you still love me was kind of an idea that came across from obviously that feeling of when you get to the end of the album, like when I told my story,
hmm
will you still love me? Like, will you
Mhm.
still
Damn.
accept me for who I am?
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of translates. I think that message kind of translates to the band as well, because we've been a band for a long time now. City as ours have been going for best part of a decade at this point. So it's a long thing. We really wanted to try something different. We wanted to try something new.
hmm
and will you still love me when I give you that? That was part of it. And then we hope that people can kind of relate to that in whatever walk of life they're from. It has a specific meaning to us. And, I'm sure there's lots of people that are going through that kind of, acceptance and have these kind of feelings of feeling that they're the only person in the world that's dealing with that. And, I can categorically say as a friend of someone who is, you're not the only person going through that, so it's really hopefully going to give us that kind of thing. With regards to the artwork and the image, we really wanted this to be like Ollie's story. So Ollie is the front man of the band, the vocalist of the band. He also makes all the music videos and all the artwork and everything else, and he's just like one of the most crazy talented people I've ever met in my life. So like, we really just gave him full license to be like, this is your thing, this is your story, and you portray it how you want it to be portrayed, sort of thing. So we've got lots more color involved than we've ever really had before. Lots more, everything is handwritten by him, so the handwriting is all his own handwriting. So literally every minor detail is down to his story coming, from an idea, from a word and something visceral through to something physical, and sort of weaving all of the fabric of that together to create this overarching thing. So hopefully we've managed to do him proud with that.
That's
For
fucking
sure.
awesome.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So
thank you, man.
So that idea of like, will you still love me, is like the question you guys want people to ponder throughout the record, even if it's not necessarily like thinking about it in the context of what the record's about.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, it's a question that if you were to ask it to anybody would probably mean something slightly different to every single person, right? And we feel like with the songs, that's always been the way that we've felt. Generally speaking, we will have a lens in which we look at that particular piece of art and sort of deal with that and process that and put it out as one thing. But somebody who then listens to it might feel completely differently about the same thing. And I guess that half the idea of kind of portraying a question with the album title was to say, to let people kind of think about it a bit more. Like the two records we've done before were both single word titles named after a song on the record, and this one we wanted to just kind of evoke something a little bit more, I don't know if meaningful is necessarily the right word, but something that kind of evokes some kind of thought process and action in terms of people actually kind of having to think about how they feel about the content. We consume content at such a high rate in 2024 that it's like we really wanted to try and do something that meant something to people, because it certainly means something to us. So hopefully that question will kind of be asked through the title, and then the journey through the songs will hopefully help them find whatever the answer is for them.
Hell yeah. Love
Damn right.
that. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
I think this process has been really cool because it's kind of the first process where I've not led on it personally, if that makes sense. Like the vision was not about what I wanted to say. Generally speaking, myself and Jamie, the bass player in the band, like have done most of the writing, so it's kind of been through the lens of those two people. But Ollie coming in and having this story to tell, and then also having just like different influences and ideas in terms of the way things should be sonically, made it really cool and really fun for me to kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a cool idea. He would almost sort of like try and give me an idea, and then I would have to try and sort of understand what he was saying, and then sort of regurgitate it back out through the guitar into some kind of demo, and then from there obviously taking it into the studio. But yeah, it just made it a really cool process. And then we worked very collaboratively between myself, Ollie, and Jamie to create the demos. And then this album is also the first record that has our drummer David on the album. David he's a very different drummer to any of the drummers that have played with us before. He's the third drummer that we've had in the band, but yeah, he's got he's Colombian for one, so obviously we're three white guys from the UK, and then Colombian drummer. That was always going to be a different thing for us. But he's got a real, almost kind of a Latin flair with lots
Mm.
of gospel influence and lots of things like that. Which obviously, when you're writing a kind of a traditional metal album, kind of wasn't ever really going to work for us. So we really had to think about how we wanted to evolve our sound and then combine that with. So we took all the songs to him, and then he added this whole new layer,
Fuck yeah.
which usually we would sort of start with drums first. So it's nice to kind of have the drums were then written in, and then we would sort of arrange the songs a little bit around it. So it's a really collaborative process between all four of us, and has come out with some really cool stuff. I think we've opened a chest of things that kind of don't. I wouldn't say it necessarily sounds exactly like anybody else. It sounds a lot like lots of different people, which is great because we've had so many influences on this record, and we wanted to try and really put that in there. But I would gladly have the argument with anyone to be like, tell me about it. It sounds exactly like this. And for me, I'm so proud of that because it's like there's bits in there that are like pop. There's bits in there that are, going back into kind of like 90s boy band. There's bits in there that are like hardcore. It's almost like some deathcore style screams at times. And sort of working out how we could kind of sew that together into one cohesive product from front to back has been the most amazing process. So yeah, it's been really collaborative, but really cool. And I'm just excited for everyone to hear it.
Damn right. So you said this was the first record where you haven't been kind of like the driving force and kind of like the person who's making the or who's leading it basically. So did you find it difficult to kind of take a step back and kind of let someone else take the lead on the record? Or did you kind of fall into that easily?
I think it was fun for me because I got to experience it in a different way. And I kind of
Yeah.
accepted that quite early on. And it was something that I welcomed. So I didn't really find it difficult. I think this time I kind of would say it was more about like steering the ship, I guess, rather than driving it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So like it was nice to be able to go, oh, okay, well, this is cool. What about this? And then just
Yeah.
presenting a new idea and then someone else coming in with another piece and sort of just adding this all together. But having that kind of really strong, this is what we're aiming to, this is the story we're trying to tell.
Yeah.
This is the way we'd like to do it. There was a few examples of things where there was a demo I wrote, which I really liked and it was kind of cool, but like it wasn't sort of like, it wasn't anything to kind of write home about. It was just a cool song. And Ollie came back and was like, I've got something to add. And he literally added a whole section.
Yeah.
And it's actually turned out to be the last song on the album, which is called Enough. And it's incredible. Like we sat when he recorded it, and it's basically like a letter to his family that was him just, talking openly about how he feels that had just been added into the song. And it's beautiful. Like we didn't change a thing. Like it was just like, this is amazing that you've come and added this and felt comfortable and confident enough to do that in a song that was probably perfectly fine on its own. Like it would have been okay. Could have gone on an album. People would have listened to it and probably enjoyed it, and that would have been it. But I really feel like he added something so amazing to that, and having those moments, like that's not something I could have done on my own. So like, there's no way. I've never done any of it on my own, but having somebody else to be the kind of focal point has just been a dream. So yeah, I haven't found a difficult one bit. It's amazing. Really fun.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. I'm happy to hear that. So, what song off the album took longest to write, and then which one is your personal favorite?
Oh, I think the answer to this question might be the same,
I love
if
when
I'm
that
honest,
happens.
which is
Okay, yeah.
mad. So I referenced already In the Dark. Um, and In the Dark is the second track on the album, and it's very much a song that evolved over time. So like I think we've had it on the back burner for a long, long time. It was around when we were writing our previous album, I think, like somewhere in that area. So, a long time. But we rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it so many times because I was never quite happy with it. And it just didn't quite, there was something missing and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I just started experimenting with, like I say, this sort of like 90 boy band, like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC kind of vibe, which sounds probably completely insane when you think about what our band sounds like when I get
A
that.
little.
Like it was just like I just wanted to kind of go, look, I really love this kind of influence, and how could we put this into heavy music, because it's just not the kind of thing that people try and do generally. Um, and then once I managed to sort of start to get the flavor for that, it was almost like the songwriting process for that song started again. So it was like we're then into like phase two, and then we rewrote it a few more times, and then eventually got somewhere with it. And it's got some kind of, there's a guitar solo in it. There's this crazy riff going on in the choruses. There's this falsetto hook. There's so many different things going on, but the fact that we managed to combine it all together, just it was such a fun process to just really just pull it apart and keep going and keep going and keep going until we were happy. So I think In the Dark is probably my favorite as well. That did take ages. So I guess that's probably the reason why, is that, I've been attached to it for so long now.
Yeah.
That it's just, the fact that we've come out the other side and it's come out as well as it has, and I'm super stoked with it.
Hell yeah. The fruits of your labor,
Exactly that. Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer? Just shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
So definitely not in order. Shame, which is track number 1, was actually the last track that we added to the album. It was originally only going to be 11. We ended up with 12. We finished the first demo literally the night before we went to the studio to start tracking. So we we messaged our producer and we were just like, look, man, we've got something here. It's a bit out there, like in comparison to some of the other stuff, but we really think it fucks basically. Like it's a cool tune, and it's got a real message. And it ended up being track number 1 on the album. We hadn't decided the song order at this point. Track number 1 on the album, the first single that we released from the album, it's just got that real message. But yeah, really, a lot of it was just a process of writing songs and figuring out what we were trying to say, and then weaving that into a process of, it just fell naturally almost into some kind of story, and something like how we going from feeling like you're alone and isolated and the only person who's dealing with these things, and you're the worst person ever because that's how you feel and there's nothing you can do about it, right through to I've accepted who I am, but will you accept me? Because that's basically where we're at by the end. And that's kind of the process that it followed. And then we just sort of, the songs naturally seem to line up. I think there was only 2 or 3 positions on the record where we were really sort of like, where should we put this? Where should we put that? Most of it just kind of spoke for itself, really, which was lovely, because it's nice to know that there's, whether it was subliminal or something, but there was a constant and consistent message throughout, so yeah, a cool process for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right. Awesome. And you kind of went into it a little bit earlier, but if you want, you could go a bit more in depth. Would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
I think in the most part, the creation of the record is where our headspaces were actually pretty good. Like we pushed boundaries, we tried new things, we went into a different studio, we tried a different process altogether. We worked with the same producer, a good friend of ours, Oz Craggs, is an absolute diamond of a human. And it kind of gave us some level of comfort and knowing what we were going to do, but trying new spaces and new rooms and things really gave us the opportunity to try new things. I think after that is where the process started to, like, in terms of headspace, change almost. Like we didn't really know where we were at. It took a while for us to work out what we were going to do. I think I'd probably be lying if I said that there wasn't a period of time where we even questioned whether the album was going to be released. We didn't really play any shows for the most part of 2023. We went out and did like 5 shows with some friends of ours called Lake Malice from the UK, who are brilliant. And we had a great time with them, but we had a couple of really tough experiences on that particular tour. We played Download Festival, which was great, and then we didn't really do a lot else, and we had this real sort of like headspace of what was going on. And that's part of the reason why it took us so long to release the record.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like things seem to happen for a reason. I think we're still having some pretty tough times. We had a really tough experience on the road fairly recently in Europe, which was a bit crazy. But this album's really then become the driving force. So
Mhm.
for something that had almost been taking the backseat, even though it was completed, it was done in
Yeah.
2023.
Hmm.
It really then gave us something to focus towards, and that's where we're at right now. So we're still dealing with some personal things in our own lives, and just being in a band in general. Like it's expensive, it's hard.
Yeah.
We haven't got any money. It's cold. It's December. We're touring the UK at the moment with the home team, and like it's amazing. We're having the best time, but it's kind of become the driving force. And even though we've still had some things going on, we've had the record to kind of cling on to. So it's been really lovely to have that as a thing to keep us going, and then hopefully get us to the next whatever comes after this, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Love
Wonderful.
it. So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Absolutely fucking bonkers.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Hell
Guys,
yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. It's got boy band hooks, it's got harmonies, it's got probably the heaviest thing we've ever written. It's got hardcore riffs, it's got I don't know, it's got everything. And whether or not it's any good or not, I don't know. I guess people will have to find out, but I can't think of another way off the top of my head to describe it other than that. So there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Solid. All right. And for this last question, are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Encouraging Ollie to be comfortable enough to tell his story. I think that's been, it's at the end of the day, it's a very personal experience, and not an experience that I can relate to. I've never been in that scenario. I don't know how it feels to feel that way. So all we could do was be his best friends and, help him kind of work out for himself. Like, we had conversations about whether or not this was even the right time to do it. Like if he wanted to have this thing, it's his story. Even the fact that I'm sat here now, like I'm speaking about something that I've been involved in, but it's not my story to tell. I was there, so that was probably the biggest challenge. But I think it brought with it this creative energy unlike anything we've ever really experienced before. So yeah, and it's been amazing just to see him kind of flourish. And I'll be honest with you, this is the very first press related activity I have done for this album. So when it popped up and I saw you two, amazing, because I've spoken to you before. Brilliant.
Hell yeah.
But like I really was really keen to make sure that it was his story that was being told. So yeah, it's just been great to see him kind of coming out of his shell and really deal with that. And I guess the challenge from our side was sort of navigating how to best support him in doing that, because we were confident that the songs were good. That bit was kind of easy, I guess, in a sense of like, we know that we're happy with what we've created, but it was more about the emotional journey of it, I suppose, rather than the sort of creative, which is cool.
Absolutely. I love that. So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Thank you. I guess thank you for having me, first of all and foremost. Yeah, I mean, we are releasing our new album, Will You Still Love Me, on A Rising Empire on the 31st of January 2025. We are on tour with the home team. I don't know when this goes out, but we are on tour with the home team right now. So across the UK. So if there's anyone in the UK listening, we are there doing that. We are then going back to Europe to hook up with our guys in Self Perception next week, and then in February, and then we are back in the UK doing another UK run in March next year. So busy all over the
busy. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Whatever this is, spring, winter, fucking cold period of time. So there you go.
Love it.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Mikey from The City Is Ours, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.